Russia. Russia, Vladimir Putin, Russia, 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 Russia hates Russia, 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 Putin, Russia's Russia, 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 Russian, 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 Russia, Russia, Moscow, Moscow, Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians.
That's just a small look into what the mainstream media coverage of Trump has been like for the past 2 or more years. And yesterday, the results of the Mueller report took a hammer to the credibility of that coverage. The investigation led by Robert S. Mueller III found no evidence that President Trump or any of his aides coordinated with the Russian government's 2016 election interference, according to a summary of the special counsel's key findings made public on Sunday by Attorney General William P. Barr. So while we actually don't know what's fully in the Mueller report, we know what William Barr, a Donald Trump appointee, says is in the report, so take that for what it's worth. But Robert Mueller and Barr have been friends for years. They run in the same Republican friend groups. I think we can reasonably expect that he will present Mueller's findings in good faith. And if he doesn't, someone from the Mueller team will say so. However, the recommendations that Barr makes for further investigation, that's a different story. The brief summary released by Attorney General William Barr shows Mueller found evidence the president sought to obstruct justice in the investigation of Russian interference on his behalf in the 2016 election, if not enough to prosecute him. So will Barr seek prosecution? Please. He's still a Republican. But let's not mince words. The #1 question from many in the Democratic elite like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi was whether or not Trump, his team, and his family members colluded with the Russian government to win the presidency. And in an effort to drive up ratings, because everyone loves a good conspiracy, the media followed suit, especially Maddow. A study by The Intercept found that within the time frame of around 5 weeks, Maddow spent more time on Russia and Russian collusion than every other story combined. All for nothing, because the answer to the central question about whether or not Trump and his people colluded with Russia seems to be a simple no. I mean, why collude with Russia if your goal was never to win? His ultimate goal, after all, had never been to win. "I can be the most famous man in the world," he had told his aide Sam Nunberg at the outset of the race. His longtime friend Roger Ailes, the former head of Fox News, liked to say that if you want a career in television, first run for president. Now, Trump, encouraged by Ailes, was floating rumors about a Trump network. It was a great future. He would come out of this campaign, Trump assured Ailes, with a far more powerful brand and untold opportunities. "This is bigger than I ever dreamed of," he told Ailes a week before the election. "I don't think about losing because it isn't losing. We've totally won." Does that sound like a man who would specifically seek out to collude with the Russian government to win the presidency when he wasn't even that interested in winning the presidency? Look, the reason that I didn't focus much on the Russia story on this channel was because I wasn't sure. I wasn't absolutely sure that Trump colluded, and I wasn't absolutely sure that he didn't. There were different pieces of evidence that pointed to different conclusions along the way, but now we know. Continuing to push conspiracy theories about this topic of collusion is damaging and frankly unnecessary, because Trump has likely committed a ton of crimes that are independent of collusion. Trump's Saudi business ties remain deeply problematic and could violate the Emoluments Clause, as could his business dealings with Russia, independent of collusion, which date back decades. Or what about his collusion with Israel? And he's facing numerous other investigations by the Southern District of New York. It's not hard to see that the guy's a crook. He's just not a Manchurian candidate. And because the Democratic Party, as well as much of the media, decided to hitch themselves to this particular story because it allowed them to criticize Trump without having to talk about actual policy, which isn't very attractive to big money donors or corporate advertisers, Trump is going to get a polling boost from this. And MSNBC, CNN, and the Democratic elite will only have themselves to blame.